This video is part 2 of how to use Qualtrics to generate simple descriptive statistics. So here we are again in Qualtrics. After you have planned your analysis and entered your data, you are ready to run some reports. To do that, you will click right up here on this menu tab under Reports. You will see that the system automatically generates some results for you. It can be tempting to just take what they give you and be done with it, but that is not good analysis. I am honestly not sure how the system defaults are set. It doesn't always seem consistent with what is reported, so if what the system generated for you is a little different, don't worry about it. This is exactly why you need to know what you want and not just rely on what the system gives you. So let's take a look. Here is our first question. After reviewing the OP website, how likely would you be to explore it further? For this first question, we discussed that 5-point ordinal rating scales, like this one here, can be treated like interval measures. So you should report both frequencies and means, as well as standard deviations. Note that the system here provided a visualization chart for the frequencies, which is great. Created a nice little bar chart here. Now you might recall that our sample size is 10 surveys for this little set of data that we have together, that we've put together here. So it's reporting here. You can see that moderately likely, 4 people indicated moderately likely, 2 people said not at all, 1 said slightly likely. So it's giving you the frequencies and it's putting them together as a bar chart. Now you can play with this a little bit if you want. To look at your options, you just click over here at the right side of the screen and it gives you a lot of different things that you can play with. I'm going to show you a few little things, but I encourage you to take a look and try the different options and see what you like. So this is a bar chart. Instead of a bar chart, you can also click over here and make it a pie chart. You can make it a breakdown bar. So there's lots of different options that you can use. This one's kind of nice. It has a nice visualization. I think that that's probably better than this bar, this particular pie chart. For this question, I don't think that that's very helpful. In this case, however, I'm just going to keep it as the default bar chart. There are a couple of things that I want to do to it though. Again, you'll notice here that this is giving us the actual raw number count. With our survey of 10 people, that might be fine. It's easy enough to understand what that means. But it's kind of nice to change this to percentages. And so to do that over here, we can click that bar. And now you'll notice that it's changed the bar chart here to percentages. Another thing that we can do is add this checkbox right here, Show Bar Labels. And now that actually gives us the specific percentage at the end of each bar. So that makes it look kind of nice. I like how that looks. So those are some options there. Now, my report also generated a next little table here. This table, if we click on that, now you can see it's created some other options over here at the side because it's for the next chart. And you'll see that it's highlighted here, the statistics table. So here this gives us the mean and the standard deviation and minimum and maximum. It gives us some other information that we need. So remember that we wanted to have the mean and standard deviation for this chart. So if that chart, in this case the chart generated automatically for me. If yours did not, we'll see what that would look like. So we're just going to remove this. That's how you can remove something in the chart. And we are going to add a visualization. So we'll click down here, we'll click Add. And what we want to add is the statistics table, because we already have the bar chart. And so now it added this table for us. So if ever that isn't included, you can just add it by adding a visualization and selecting the statistics table. Similarly, if you wanted to add another visualization of a bar chart or some other chart, you can do the same thing where you add it in. So now we have that line here. Also note that the system automatically generated this choice count list right here. And that is the one that's created by a simple table. So again, you can always add any other type of option that you might want if it wasn't automatically generated by clicking Add Visualization. Usually it will, though, the system will give you some of these defaults, and you can just decide, for example, how you want your table to look. So let's look at question number 2. So question number 2 is set up a little differently because it was set up as a matrix question. So really 3 questions in one. And I really do not like the default that's set up for this particular bar chart. Let's take a look. Notice how it has grouped all of the 3 questions, engaging, easy to navigate, and stylish, together. So here it's telling us that 4 people indicated slightly for engaging, 4 people said slightly for easy to navigate, and 4 people said stylish. Notice, or 4 people said slightly for stylish. Notice that none of them had not at all. Now, I don't know about you, but this is really hard for me to understand. But there are some things that we can do to make it a little bit easier. So again, we just click over here on the right side, and it'll bring up kind of the different options for our chart. So the first thing that I like to do with this chart is, again, remember, we kind of like doing the percentages. So we will change this over here to percentage instead. And we will add the show bar labels. So it'll show the bar labels. But there's one more thing here that's going to make this table much easier to understand. And that is down here. If you go down here to transpose, it changes the way the chart is displayed. So now instead of grouping together all the not at alls, all the slightlys, and all the moderatelys, instead of grouping it together by answer option, it's organizing it by question. So now you have engaging, and you have all of the different answer options for engaging together. So you can see here that 40% of people said slightly engaging, 20% said moderately engaging, and 30% said very engaging, and 10% said extremely engaging. And then you can look at the same thing for easy to navigate and the same thing for stylish. For me, I think that this is a lot easier to read for your data in terms of taking a look at it. But again, if you're wanting to make comparisons to determine whether people found the website more engaging or easier to navigate or stylish, it's really hard to make comparisons between these frequencies here. But that's why, remember, that we also have the means calculated for these particular items. So down here again, this automatically generated my statistics table. Again, if it did not for you, you could simply add a visualization and click your statistics table to get that added in there. I'm going to delete it since we already have one of those. But so now we have this chart, and what's nice about this is now it makes it much easier because we have the average to compare engaging, easy to navigate, and stylish. Here we can compare the means and see that on average people found the website easier to navigate than they found it engaging or stylish. Now that isn't really a big difference, but you can certainly see how if it were, it would be much easier to make these comparisons between these items than it is by comparing them on the bar chart. So just for understanding overall how engaging people found the website, it's nice to see for each of these measures, but when you want to compare them against each other, these means make it a lot easier to do. Okay, and again, it's oh yeah, and this is giving me then this chart down here tells you for engaging how many people responded for each item. So this is just creating the same thing as a frequency table rather than as the bar chart down there. So you can leave that there, and we're going to see how we can export it all in a minute. So next question is number 3. What improvements would you make to the design of the website? Now remember that this was an open-ended question. So what the system has done is simply listed what everyone said. Now since we only had 10 surveys and only 4 people filled it out, there isn't a lot here. But if you had hundreds of surveys, there would be a big long list of the comments that people had. And to analyze those quantitatively, what you would need to do is actually go through and make your own list and tally the different types of responses. So in this case, you might look through and notice that a couple people listed music. So you might count up how many people listed music. Then you have something to catch attention and shows more designs and colors. Those kind of seem different. So in this case, you might just list 2 people talked about wanting music on the website. One said they wanted something more to catch attention, and another said that they wanted more designs and colors of clothing. Again, if you had hundreds of responses, you could start finding ways to come up with categories. But you can see why that you don't really want to have a lot of open-ended answers and questions on your survey, because it becomes really hard to analyze. The system does provide one visualization option that is kind of nice and a quick and easy way to get at least a basic picture of your data. And that is this visualization chart here. What it's done is created a word cloud. So you'll see here that music is generated really big because music, a couple people had said music. So it generated this nice little word cloud. So if you do have some open-ended responses and you're not going to have time to go through and count up and tally different answers, it will kind of create this nice little word cloud for you. But again, it really provides limited insight. So you can look and see what other visualizations you might add. But note that because this is open-ended, this system doesn't even give us an option for different types of charts or statistics tables. It really only gives us the option for this word cloud or this page table, which is this one right here. So again, very limited options for open-ended types of questions. Now we'll move on again to the next question. How well does the website communicate our company's products? And again, this is a 5-point scale. So you can do a chart for this one, and again, you can play and do different types of charts if you like. Also, you would want to have your mean and standard deviation. So if that wasn't reported, again, you would just add a visualization and ask it to put the statistics table down there, and it would generate it for you. And then also we have the just choice chart. And again, just to remember which is which. If one of these didn't display, this is your simple table, which gives you this result here. Any of these are your different types of bar charts, and this is the one that gives you your statistics table here. So if one of these didn't display, you could just go ahead and add it in. I'm going to go ahead and delete this since we already had all 3 of those reported. Next, we have how likely it is you will consider purchasing OP. Again, another 5-point scale, so we want to make sure that we have our chart and also our statistics. The reason why I'm going through and showing you these one by one is that sometimes with these ordinal scales, the system will not automatically generate these means and standard deviation statistic table, because it'll say, oh, this is just an ordinal chart, an ordinal variable, and so I'm not going to make it a mean. And so sometimes you'll need to add that in. So we'll go through there. So now, last 2 questions. Had you heard of the OP brand prior to today? Here we have yes and no as our answers, so it's giving us our frequencies. Now again, with each of those charts that we did, I haven't done it on all of them, but you can go through and change each of these to percentage and add in the bar labels. And I'm going to go ahead and do that actually for these other ones on this chart. And we're going to change that to percentage. We're going to add in our bar labels, which is not the end of the world if you don't include those, but it does make it easier to read. So again, on this one, do the same thing. Add in our percentages. Change it to percentages. Whoa. Are you getting dizzy? I am. Add in our bar labels. Okay. And this one we've already fixed. Now, this automatically generated a mean and standard deviation. Again, when you're just looking at the OP brand, and yes or no, if they've heard of it, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to include the mean 1.5. It makes sense because 5 people said yes and 5 people said no, so the mean kind of splits that difference, but it really isn't very helpful for you to understand. So the yes and no's are fine. You don't need to delete this. You can leave it there. You just probably won't ultimately end up reporting it in your final report. And then the last question is gender. And again, gender here is giving us this bar chart. Now with this one here, I think I'm going to change this to a pie chart, just because that's a nice, easy display. And actually, maybe we'll go ahead and do that with our herd of OP too. Since it's only 2 groups, and it kind of makes a nice, easy visual to know that half of your people had heard of the brand and half the people in your survey had not, and half of the people were men and half of the people were women. Now, your data isn't always going to fall this nice and even like this unless you do quota sampling, where you specifically make sure you have a certain number of people of each criteria. But again, this is just a simple sample data set, so it happens to come out nice and even. And again, it reported a mean and a standard deviation, which average gender does not make any sense, so it's not ultimately something you'll report, but the system defaulted it, so it's fine to leave it. And so now we have our data set, and it's in Qualtrics. How do we get it out of Qualtrics and into our report? Well, Qualtrics has some nice, simple little options here. You can go down in here and choose how you want to export your data as PDF, Word, a bunch of different options. Now I'm going to go ahead and export this as a PowerPoint slide report. So we want everything checked. So I'm going to go ahead and export those pages. And it has some others reported here that I've played with before. Yours won't the first time you do it. And it may take a few seconds to generate the report. And once it's done, you can download it, and I'm going to go ahead and open it up, and in the next video we will take a look at what you can do with it.